Welcome back, horror fans. My name's Adam.
And I'm Zoe, and today we will be ranking the top 10 best movies in the Saw franchise. And you may be thinking that there's only 10 movies in the Saw franchise, and you'd be right.
That's right. And these are the top 10 best ones.
These are the top 10 best ones. No, let's be real, guys. We are going to be ranking the Saw movies from worst to best. I just want to start off by saying that I truly believe that there are only 2 movies on this list that could count as bad. So we'll start off with those 2, obviously, but after that, I did find that it was extremely difficult to place these films in a coherent order. I think that we found it hard to consider which one was technically a good film, which one was technically better, which one we figured we could sit down and rewatch more. So the list is ever changing.
Yes, well,
definitely.
In terms of the best to worst or the worst to best, you know, you do have to question, is this film like just overall the best movie? Is it the most rewatchable movie? Yeah. Does it just work best? There's a few factors going into this because some are more action-based than others and some have some big twists you don't see coming. Yeah. So anyway, this is our definitive list as of right now.
As of right now, but it does change every day. And I'm still looking at the list right now and I'm like, oh. But we're just going to give it to you and we'll try and justify as we go along why the films are ordered the way that they are.
That's it.
And if you don't agree, that's fine because it's not your list. But let's start off with number 10. Adam, what is the worst Saw film?
I'll give the audience a moment to let us know exactly what number 10 is, all right? What is number 10? That's right, you said it. Spiral.
Spiral is number 10.
Well done, guys. I'm glad you're on the same page as us.
It's hard to even consider this movie a Saw film. The fact that it's called Spiral from the Book of Saw, disappointing. Just call it Spiral and have it piss off. Because I can't stand it.
That's right. If we could disown this movie, we would. And I know there's a couple of you Spiral apologists out there.
Yeah, Spiral defenders.
Defending the movie. And we see you in the comments. And, you know, I know you kind of like don't like us sort of crapping all over your film, but it's not very good.
Look, let's start off with like a nice thing to say about Spiral. Some of the traps are cool. There are some really
Some of the traps are cool.
There are some really gory moments, you know, the fingers coming off in the finger trap. They definitely do some scenes okay, but it's very, very, very minimal. Having Chris Rock at the center of this movie is an awful decision. Just like the overall, like, get that rap music out of my Saw movie. What do you guys think you're doing here?
Yeah, okay. Look, in the one defense I will give it is that it doesn't have the worst traps. It's not the worst traps like film.
Yeah, if we were to go off that, there would be another film.
Yes, there's definitely films with worse traps for sure. Outside of that, there's not a lot going for this movie.
There's no redeeming qualities about this film. And I think even with the twist of this film, this is maybe one of the 2 Saw films that I can think of that has the worst plot twist. It's just awful. You don't care for it at all.
Yeah, but even worse, you don't care for the main character, you know? And I'll tell you, as somebody who likes Chris Rock, this is his worst performance I've ever seen.
It's an awful performance. Yeah, the comedic relief in it, you can definitely tell that everything's been written by Chris Rock.
I don't think that he knew if it was a serious performance or if it was a comedy performance. I don't think he could tell. He was always just, it was a weird expression on his face all
Almost
the time.
Almost like he was constipated constantly.
Yeah, and I think that the director just didn't care because every time he delivered a line, he was clearly just like given no direction. He was just like, yeah, that'll do. Chris Rock you couldn't take him seriously. And the performance was so weird.
No, yeah, it was really, really strange.
It was an odd movie.
And let's talk about for a second the actual Jigsaw on the tape, the sound of his voice.
I knew you were going to say that, yeah.
Hello, Detective Banks. I'm here to help reform the Metro Police.
Oh my God! Who decided
Let's hear it.
that?
Come.
Hello, detective. I hated it so much. It sounded like we were listening to a Muppet talk.
Yeah, why? I know they're trying to be different, so like go the opposite way. Like, hello, detective. It's not really that menacing.
It's not menacing. Even the pig mask that they decided to take on in this film. Like, I feel like they were right in trying to do some things differently and be like their own sort of film. And it makes sense because obviously the guy in it, William Shank, he's a copycat killer. He's not a part of the main Jigsaw henchman. So they did want to try something different, but it just doesn't work.
Even the pig puppet as well.
Pig Puppet's terrible.
No one
and
likes it.
I just thinking about the movie now. Think about that scene where Chris Rock goes and tries to get to the drug dealer, and he puts in the ink thing.
Terrible.
And is that even a Saw film? It's like, are we still watching a Saw movie right now?
That scene, I just want to try and delete it off my brain.
It's not good.
The thing is as well, like as bad as the movie is, could you imagine if they had Billy in it and the voice? How much better the movie would have been. It just kept everything else the same.
Yep.
It just would have been so much better to have the voice and have
that's
Billy
all they
there.
needed to change,
Not
and,
that
and it
much.
still would have elevated it.
Just something, you know. I mean,
yeah.
Chris Rock was not the right choice for this, or at least his performance wasn't. There's too many things to just to go over in this.
Absolutely.
And we're not going to dwell on it all day. So look, if you want to defend Spiral, let's see your best in the comments. But I don't think you can change our mind on this one.
Yeah, definitely. Spiral is a standalone film, maybe, but even then, probably not.
No, please don't. I don't think anyone's watching this film if it's not at least a Book of Saw movie. If it's its own standalone movie, there's no one watching it. So without wasting too much time on that, let's move on to number 9.
Number 9, we have Jigsaw.
Jigsaw. And you all could have guessed that.
Again, this wasn't a hard film to place. These two movies were not hard to put in our list to figure out where they would go.
That's right. This is one piece of the puzzle that fit very well.
It did fit perfectly. We didn't even need to think about this end of the list. It's coming up. That was what we had to think about. But before we get into what's coming up, Jigsaw, there really isn't much to say about it.
No, and I think the biggest issue is, again, performance is very poor, characters very poor. But traps, the worst traps
that didn't make any sense at all.
Really bad traps.
Jigsaw really is a movie that tries to do too much and fails at it all. If I had to pick one of my favorite things about Jigsaw, it really would be that moment where Halloran realizes that Logan is not dead and that his collar did not go off.
You love the laser collar.
I really do. I don't necessarily like the trap, and I don't really like when the actual collar kills Halloran, but I do love the moment that he looks across and sees that it didn't happen to Logan. And Logan, obviously we get the reveal that he's the apprentice. I think that scene works really well. But the rest of the film is just trying to be this big Hollywood movie, and it just fails miserably.
Yes, it definitely feels like very modern, sort of just almost like a heartless movie. And there's no real caretaker and there's no real character depth. Everybody's just like, it's almost like a sitcom, like a TV show where everything is just like so shallow in terms of the character depth, and everything's just cliche and stuff like that. It's kind of a disappointing movie start to finish. The start is really weird on that note. Like the way it opens with I don't even know the guy's name.
The police chase.
Yeah, the
Edgar
police chase. Yeah, the Edgar Munson.
How could you forget?
Of course, I should have known. But the police chase with Edgar Munson, the way it opens, the first time I watched it, I was like, what is going on?
Yeah,
This makes no sense. And then the way he gets shot and everything. Oh, it's just the whole thing.
But again, like the reveal later that Logan was there the whole time and he shot him, like it was all really cool. But up until that point, there is no redeeming quality about the film at all. You don't care for anyone in the trap plot. The only good, I guess you can consider good character, was the guy that gets his leg torn apart. Like,
even then, do we care about that guy?
you don't really care about him, but like he is the one on screen that you probably like enjoy watching the most.
The least hateable one.
The least hateable, yeah, the least worst character.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, there's just not really much to remember from the film at all.
No.
The
only good parts. I mean, Eleanor, I didn't mind.
Yeah.
She was a small part of the movie. But realistically, the best part really was having some Tobin Bell in there. You know.
Yeah.
Cool.
I enjoyed that. But even having that Tobin Bell scene when like he knew about how Anna killed her baby, it's just like, what the hell is going on right now? Like, you were his neighbor the whole time. It's really weird. Anyways, I don't really have a nice thing to say about Jigsaw
there's not
other
much.
than Logan.
Other than Logan and specifically John Kramer and Logan together, there's some nice little
the
flashback.
scene where they're building the reverse bear trap is very good.
Yeah, it feels like just some hearty good fun on the farm making the bear trap.
Yeah.
And I could do with a whole movie of that, just them hanging out together.
Absolutely.
You know, that's a movie. The rest of the stuff is not a film.
No, we didn't need it at all.
Yeah, it's just they tried so hard with these last two movies, Jigsaw and Spiral, until it spiraled out of control and fell off a cliff. They tried to do something different, and it was obviously whoever they put it into the hands of these last two movies, they really just couldn't really find what we were going for.
I'm pretty sure it was the same writer as sawx. It just
that's the thing about the writers of the sawx. I don't know what they did differently, but But I think that was more so the producers doing something different, trying to be different.
Absolutely.
And going for something very different with Jigsaw, and then Spiral, very, very different. And that really wasn't the answer, unfortunately. But at least we can tick these two off very quickly and say that they're...
Yeah, easy to put them in the do not watch pile.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Put them in their place. If you want to go watch all the Saw movies, just leave those two out of it.
You really don't have to watch them.
The next 8 movies are the real Saw movies.
Yes.
So this is where we begin to actually figure this out.
This is where the real list begins.
Yeah.
Now this list, like I said before, I feel like it's really difficult to say that any of them are actually bad, apart from maybe the next one, which I think can be considered pretty bad.
Sure.
But let's talk about how the rewatch value of our next film is actually pretty good. Like, I enjoy watching it when I get around to it. And at number 8, we have Saw 3D.
Saw 3D.
Saw the final chapter.
I think that you guys would have guessed this one pretty easily as well, because the films in the last few movies kind of went downhill pretty quickly.
This wasn't a hard film to place. We know that it's not the best in comparison to the rest of the films on this list, but I still think that Saw 3D has some really cool moments.
Yeah, and the people involved in this movie weren't bad. Like, we had some good actors, some good characters.
Yep.
We had a decent director. I want to say decent nowadays, thanks to
Yep.
sawx. But it just really didn't work as a movie.
No.
And I don't know why, but so many of the scenes in this didn't just look so crazy low budget.
Yeah.
But like some of the props
It looks
and
like
the actors.
the only way that I can describe it is it looks like one of those films that would come on during the day. Like, you know, like that midday
It was a daytime movie.
Daytime movie? Yeah. That's
really
what
did.
Saw 3D feels like.
Yeah, it's like some of the biggest actors in this movie were the wigs, like the crazy wigs that they had, and
All this aside, though, if we take Saw 3D and we separate it into 2 spots and we say that the trap plot was never a part in it, and it's just the scenes of Hoffman tracking down Jill and the detectives trying to find where Hoffman is. And even if we still kept the trap plot between the white supremacists and that sort of thing, and maybe even the opening trap, could be a good film.
Yeah.
It's where Bobby Dagan comes into it. The film is ruined.
Bobby Dagan ruins this movie.
He does. We don't
single-handedly.
care about him or his friends. The only person we really cared about in that whole movie, in that whole trap side of things, is his wife. And even then, when she died, we're like, he deserves it.
Yeah, why is it that not just Bobby Dagan is terrible, but all the people around him, pretty much all his friends and everything, they're all so horrible. The characters, the way they're written, the way they look, the way they're acted, they're all just so terrible. Everything about it. If you cut all that out, you'd have an okay movie.
You'd have an okay movie. It's really just Hoffman going on a rampage the whole time. And if you're anything like me, I love that. I would love to see a whole movie of that being like happening. But yeah, look, Saw 3D, it does give us the silent circle. It does give us the horsepower trap. It gives us finally being able to see the reverse bear trap in action. So I would say that there are really, really cool moments, but the film just falls short with that overall trap
There's
plot.
plenty of good traps in it.
Yeah.
For certain. There's a lot of things that it does right. It just gets sort of overshadowed by the terrible scenes as well. And,
Now I know you hate the reveal of Dr. Gordon.
I want to be clear. Like,
Are you warming up to
I
it?
like Dr. Gordon, because we have a lot of people who love Dr. Gordon. And I don't mind the idea maybe of like, let's see, more of Dr. Gordon in the future. There's ridiculously low chance that seems to be. But the idea that they reveal at the end of this movie that out of nowhere, Dr. Gordon is actually working for John Kramer after all of the torment that Gordon went through in the first movie.
Yeah.
I don't love the
But
idea
some would say that was really predictable considering his character was in the opening scene of the film.
Yeah, I mean, look, people say that because they're like, oh, well, it was hinted at the start of the movie. Fine. But the fact is that it really felt like they shoehorned this in to give you a, oh, wow, moment at the end, like a twist. They really tried to find a great twist. It's a Saw movie. They need a twist. It felt shoehorned in because the character, from what he went through in Saw 1, feels really diminished when you find out he's become one of them. Mm-hmm. Now you're like, well, after everything you went through, I don't feel that bad for you because now you're just doing it to everybody else.
Well, the thing about the way Saw 3D ends, and it has Dr. Gordon being the reveal as the apprentice, when Saw 3D was filmed, they really wanted Hoffman's character to be dead. That was it for Hoffman's character. They didn't want another film. So I feel like they thought, who can we use to bring him down that's actually going to be impactful? And I feel like the only other option was to bring back someone else we know as an apprentice, and they chose Gordon.
I think a lot of people felt like it was a great way to sort of, have the start come back full circle using a character from Saw 1. It was just a really great note, because I know Carrie Elways, the actor for Dr. Gordon, felt like, all the fans always wanted me to come back, and it's so great to come back from being in number 1 to being in the last one. Like, it all just felt like a big connection, because they did think it was the last film.
Yep.
So I can see why they talked about that. But just the fact that he became an apprentice, I was just like, of all the people to make an apprentice, it just kind of felt like that wronged the original character a little bit. That being said, Dr. Gordon's not like a perfect person.
Yeah.
He's a bit of an ass in the first film. Like, he's up to some no good stuff in terms of his relationship and everything, his family. But it just, like the crap that he went through in the first film, to come back and go, you know what? I agree. I'm going to do what you're doing to me the whole time. Let's just go through.
Well, this is why we definitely need another film with him, though, because it would be really interesting if they could somehow put in that he's being blackmailed like Hoffman was. But we've really talked about this film for a while, and I feel like we do talk about Saw 3D very, very often, considering it is so low down on our list.
Yep.
So let's jump right into number 7, and we have Saw 4.
Saw 4.
It's a hard one to talk about because it is a really good film.
This is where we're starting to get in the thick of it here, all right?
Yeah, don't judge it.
No one can agree on this list.
No.
At this point. I think that the first 3, pretty easy picks. No one's going to really probably push Jigsaw Spiral and really Saw 3D too far down this list.
Yeah.
But the rest of the movies, this is very muddly, this area.
Yes.
So if we're going to list Saw 4 as number 7, we better have a good reason for it.
I don't know if there is a good reason for it, other than the fact that if I sit there and I have all the Saw films in front of me on a silver platter, Saw 4 is just not going to be the one that I reach for.
Yeah, Saw 4, I mean, look, we're obviously going to go through all the next movies, but Saw 4, I think, a few reasons. I like Rig as a character.
I like Rig. I don't think he's strong enough to hold the main character.
Yeah, it was kind of a weird choice, like this quite a side character to get pulled into to be the main focus of this film.
I would have preferred them to have Alison Carey as a main character before they had Rig.
Yep.
I feel like they could have strung Rig up in the angel trap and killed him off, and then had Alison have a whole film.
That's true.
Because it just doesn't it doesn't feel like he has enough depth to be the main character of a film.
No. I thought he was great. I thought the performance was very good.
Absolutely.
This film doesn't really hold up that well. Like, it's not a bad film like all the movies.
It's definitely not a bad film. Like, I love how the film opens with the autopsy of John Kramer, and Hoffman comes in and listens to the tape, and then it comes full circle around the end where we find out the events are happening at the same time as Saw 3, and that Hoffman at that autopsy doesn't happen till the end of the film. I think it's all really interesting, and I think that the rewatch value is there when you watch it and you're like, well, now I want to watch it again, knowing that it's happening at the same time as Saw 3. I want to be able to point these things out. And we also do get the introduction of Agent Storm and Lindsay, which is great because those characters are pretty cool.
Yes, there's definitely highlights in this movie, for sure.
There's a lot of highlights, but it's just for me that it's just not the film that I reach for.
No, I think it's this is the reason why I put it in this place in the top 10 is purely because after watching it once or twice, I think the rewatchability is just not as strong as the other films.
Yeah.
Because, as we said, Rig is probably not the strongest that you're going to sit there and rewatch it over and over again. We like things like Eric Matthews in this film is really great. And also the ending is kind of fun, the way Eric Matthews gets finished off. And
definitely. The reveal of Hoffman.
Very
cool.
Yeah, there's some cool moments, but then once you've seen those moments revealed, it's not the film you're going to go back and rewatch when you've got the other Saw options.
Definitely can rewatch scenes from it, but rewatching the actual film is kind of difficult to sit through.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like the film also has this quite a dark tone to it.
Yeah.
Some of the traps are almost like too real, like, some of the people that are put in the traps, it's kind of like almost sad, like if we're talking about the hair pull trap and why she's put into this trap, or what's the guy's name in the hotel, Ivan. Like, these characters are kind of just like dingy, like real bad people. And it's...
But see, I think those two traps are really cool. I think the letdown for me is the the husband and the wife, and she's been in the abusive relationship, and she has to pull the rods through her. I think the idea of it is cool. I think the overall look of the trap is kind of not great.
Not that the traps were bad, but the people were almost like too real. It was almost like, here's a really creepy, dirty guy that no one would want to, know, and he's putting this trap. The stuff that they would put there for all of a sudden was just kind of like horrible stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wasn't just like fun things. It was not a fun movie anymore. It just kind of became like, real horrible criminal stuff.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah. But then again, I suppose that sort of also makes you really want them to die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, for sure. It just feels a bit, I don't know.
I feel like we really don't have a real reason as to why we put this at number 7.
We don't hate it. We don't hate it. But we don't hate any of these films.
Like I said just before we announced number 8, it is really hard to find, to put them all in any type of order, because we love all the Saw films. I don't think we have a real justification as to why this is at number 7. It's just the fact that we would prefer to watch other Saw films instead of this one.
That's right.
And let's jump right into Saw number 6, which is really going to piss you off.
Here's a hot take for you.
This is a massive hot take. And this one is, again, purely because we just don't enjoy watching the film as much as others. And at number 6, do you want to say it? Do you want to tell them?
You get to say it. Number 6 is...
Saw 2.
Saw 2, number 6 in the list.
I know, guys. I know you weren't expecting it, and you're probably ready to click off this video at this point.
This list is a little bit different to other people's lists, I'm just going to say.
It is different, and I tell you what, we've seen these films again, like many, many times since the release of Saw 10, since we found out it was coming. Saw 2 is just, that is maybe the one that I find the most difficult to rewatch.
Again, I want to say... we don't hate any of these movies. Once we get to this part of the list, we like all the movies, and we're just more passionate about some than others.
Yes.
And so with Saw 2, again, we like Saw 2. I think the big thing about Saw 2 is that while it is a good Saw film, it's super not rewatchable because it's all about kind of like leading to a big twist at the end.
Yeah.
The main characters in the plot trap are mostly not amazing, especially the actors. They feel very B-grady and certainly not up to a certain standard.
Apart from Amanda.
Apart from Amanda and Daniel, I'd say.
Daniel,
which the rest of them all feel a bit like, we don't really care about any of them.
Yep.
And to be honest too, the backstory to Saw 2 is purely that this film was originally written with Saw not in mind at all. It was just a movie that was written. Someone found the script and read it and said, hey, this would make a good Saw movie. And they slapped the name Saw 2 on it.
And they needed a Saw film at the time, so
they
figured, why not?
Good timing. So, for what they did in the time, because Saw 2 was released so quickly after Saw 1, they were desperate to just find a script and slap Saw 2 on it. They did well, certainly, but yeah, it's a film that basically was not really supposed to be Saw until it was, and I think that so many other movies do a lot more.
I think that you're right, though, in saying that a lot of the people in the nerve gas house are pretty shitty. Yeah. Because just thinking about like certain scenes, like obviously Obby's death, or his name's Obby, I think. It's just boring. Like it's boring. Every time it happens, it's almost like, okay, let's either jump to the scene with the needle pit, let's jump to the end when they're back in the bathroom, or let's jump back to Eric Matthews and the whole detective plot, because that's all that's really interesting about the film.
Yes, I will always defend the end of the movie.
The end is amazing.
No, but specifically the moment where he's found safe in a safe
place.
In a safe.
Yeah.
Probably the greatest writing of any Saw movie when he's... look, I told you he was in a safe place, and he was found in a safe. I will always say that was one of the greatest lines ever. But the film itself, it really felt... It's funny too, Saw 1 made on a budget of $1 million, very cheap. And then got Saw 2, which slightly higher in terms of production budget. But this felt way cheaper in terms of budget. And the actors were certainly... much lower budget, and look, not every Saw film has great actors in it. No, but certainly, this.
I think that the overall plot twist and everything is one of the strongest out of all of them. Like the fact that Daniel Matthews is in the safe the whole time, and then Jigsaw's led Eric Matthews to the wrong address, and Amanda locks him up. Like I think that the writing of that is all
the whole film,
really good.
The whole film relies on the twist.
Yeah,
completely. Absolutely. And once you know the twist, it kind of loses a lot of its rewatch value because there's not much else that happens besides just a twist, really. Yeah. Kind of the whole thing is building up.
It'd be hard to imagine if this film did well not being a Saw film. Like if it had been made.
Of course not. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Because
Absolutely.
it really just I don't know. I really like Eric Matthews in this film. I think, and Eric Matthews is by no means one of my favorite characters, but I still think that he stands out in this film a lot.
Yeah. And all the other detectives as well. But that being said, we don't hate the movie.
We don't.
We love the movie.
We don't. We love the movie. It's still on Letterboxd. It's still in my top 2 Saw movies. Like technically speaking, it is an amazing film.
We love
it's just the rewatch value for us isn't there.
Yes. And basically, at this point, we've talked about Saw for a long time, as you guys know. So we need to talk about the top 10 in terms of what we think we can keep watching, the most of. But again, we don't hate it. We love all these movies.
Yep.
So
let's piss you off with another one.
Let's see if you can guess.
I bet they can't. Oh no! Well, I'm sure they know it's coming now.
Look, let me give you a hint of what number 5 is. It's number 5.
At number 5, we have Saw 5.
Saw 5.
It's to me, this isn't a hard pick. This is the film that I had downloaded on my school computer in year 7, and this is the film that I would rewatch all the bloody time, and I never got sick of it.
This was the movie that you watched while you were going through adolescence, and you grew up and became
but
a girl.
honestly, I saw this film before I'd even seen Saw 4 or Saw 3. Because it was at that stage where my parents wouldn't let me watch Saw 3. I was lucky to even get my hands on Saw 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So I'd seen this film before I knew anything about the plot of the other films. And I could still watch it over and over and over again and enjoy it. And still to this day I can. I think that we get great characters. Like Storm is incredible in this film. It is so good. He is just on an absolute rampage the whole time.
Strom is amazing in this movie, and let it be said that he leaves nothing on the table by the end of this film. Literally nothing. He is just a hand hanging off a rack. He's, he lets it all out.
I think that, this film is so interesting. Like, you have Storm as this character who you really think is going to be this massive problem for Hoffman and the overall story. He escapes an inescapable trap at the start of the film. And then somehow the film ends up... The water cube trap, and then somehow the film ends up killing him by the end of it, which you never would have seen coming.
Yeah.
And neither did Storm. Amazing scenes. The water cube trap, what a scene. You get the pendulum trap, which is also incredible. You also get the glass coffin trap, which again, some of the best scenes in the whole franchise are in Saw 5.
Look, and I want to say as well, I think that there are a lot of people who aren't big fans of Saw 5.
Yeah.
But you can't deny the coffin trap. You can't deny the water cube trap.
No, you can't.
You can't deny the bromance of Stroffman.
And Hoffman.
I like to call them Stroffman.
Hoff-Strom.
You can't deny these things. And so if you want to say Saw 5 is not one of the better films, look, we're not putting it as the number 1.
It's definitely one that's hated the most, but for me, I just believe it doesn't deserve the hate that it gets.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I wanted to have my gripes with it, I definitely could. Like, I think that the lower side of Saw 5 is the overall trap plot. I don't find it that interesting. I'm always wanting to get back to see what Storm's doing or what Hoffman's doing and what they're up to. The CGI when her head comes off in the first trap of the overall trap plot is terrible. So let's forget that that's even a part of the film. But it's hard to deny that Saw 5 is home to some of the greatest scenes in the entire franchise.
Yeah.
So how could you not put it as high as it is?
Yeah, it has some of the best moments throughout the Saw
best moments, best character development. Like, we get to see the whole Hoffman and why he is in the position that he's in, and the fact that he faked a Jigsaw murder and that his sister died and that he got vengeance. Like, I think that his reason for becoming a Jigsaw apprentice is one of the best in the whole franchise out of all of the apprentices. And that's not me just being a Hoffman lover. I just think that it makes more sense for him to be in that position than anyone else.
It's a little bit you being a Hoffman lover.
Let's
be honest. Let's not go too overboard.
But Storm's demise, tell me it's not the best one ever.
Yeah,
For any character, it's not the best.
Yes,
it is.
Look, that gives us a lot of great scenes, and so we need to, again, this whole part of the Saw top 10 is, can be very polarizing to people, but I think for us, Saw 5 needs to be sort of, somewhere up there. at the end of the day, and it's a great movie.
I
for its
rewatch
own
it
thing.
purely just to see those scenes alone. Like
Yeah.
to me, that film carries more scenes to look forward to than something in a Saw 2 and
Yeah.
Saw 4.
Definitely a very rewatchable Saw film.
Definitely.
Yeah.
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 There's no shortage of things to look forward to
And to look at.
and to imagine.
All right, we better move on. What do we got?
Let's move on. At number 4, what do we have?
Saw 6.
Saw 6.
Yes.
This is one that seems to be not so polarizing. People love Saw 6.
People like Saw 6. I think putting it here at this position is pretty safe, I think.
Yeah.
I think that the last couple, like the top 3, let's say, can be...
People were yelling at us through that screen. I can feel it.
Yeah, but I think that this one is a pretty good spot for Saw 6.
I think that the rest of the films people can tend to agree with.
Yeah, to a degree. Saw 6 is a great film, but obviously there are... Let's not go too far into top 3 right yet, but there are reasons why we would pick other films maybe above it, but this one definitely one of the better Saw films.
I really enjoy it because it's very real. And not real in the sense that we're putting pedophiles and rapists in a trap, because that's just too real for me. I don't really want to hear about all that. But this one is putting genuinely bad people in situations that they deserve to be in, but very real people too.
Yeah.
Talking about like things like insurance and scamming people and, money is a big plot of this film as well. And you really don't feel bad for William Easton or any of the people in the trap plots in these films, apart from maybe the guy that got put there for smoking. The janitor.
Yeah, I don't know what that guy was doing there. But look, William Easton, certainly a love-to-hate character. And I think that some of the better Saw movies in this list really exist there because the characters in the trap plots, they worked really well.
They're really strong. So, yeah, exactly. Love to hate. Like, even though we love to hate William Easton, he's still a great character.
Yeah.
You still kind of root for him by the end of it.
I mean, I don't know if we go that far, but...
Really? No?
I mean, rooting for him, you want him to get out, you're like, go William!
I'm still a believer that if William Easton had have survived, he would have been a changed person.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
definitely.
that's a big call.
He was like you could see when he was facing these choices of who to save. You could really see that he's like, holy shit, like this is like really what I'm doing to people. Like,
oh yeah.
Yeah, so
it's a tough decision.
It definitely, I do believe that if he had have got out of that situation, he would have been a changed individual. And I think that John would have, although he's dead at this point, he would have been happy that someone could have been rehabilitated in that way.
Yes, he would have been singing his praises from the grave.
He wouldn't have been rolling in his grave.
He wouldn't be.
Rolling with excitement.
Rolling with excitement in his grave. I got
another one!
I think that William Easton works very well because, it's clear why he's there.
Mm-hmm.
The actor was good, actually. He's actually a pretty seasoned actor.
Pretty good.
He's been around for a while. You know, we've seen William Easton in a few movies as of
have.
late. And yeah, actor was good. The character was good. He made sense why he was there. Had a cool interaction, like a backstory with John as well. That sort of all tied together well.
Yep.
So yeah, some of these movies that have, let's say, not great characters. I don't want to blame the actor every time, but not great characters in these trap plots. They're the weaker movies generally because you just don't care. When you have a great actor or / character, when you have a really great character in the trap plots, it's just so much more fun to watch. Especially when they're the main character.
Exactly right. And it's to the point where, as we all know, I'm someone who loves Hoffman a lot. Yeah. But when he's not on screen in this film, I don't feel that absence. I really enjoy watching William go through the trap plot, and I really enjoy watching him make his decisions on who to save. I think all the traps are pretty good, aside from the gallows and maybe the oxygen crusher. I think the thing with the oxygen crusher is the person who's put in it isn't very deserving. But I do like the idea of the trap. It is pretty cool. The ending is amazing where Hoffman escapes a reverse bear trap. I think that for the most part, this film is pretty good.
Yeah, there's a lot going for it. It's not the best, but it certainly is one of the better films. Absolutely. It is one of the better films. There's a lot of rewatchability.
Yep.
And the let's say trap plot / B plot or whatever you want to call it. Neither of them are too weak. They're both quite entertaining, and you don't sort of hate one of them, whereas a lot of movies you sort of generally hate the trap plot or the other plot and you sort of want to jump back and forth.
Yeah.
This one works on both levels.
On both levels, for sure.
So we're pretty happy
absolutely.
with that. And on that note, we can move along pretty happily.
We're at our top 3.
Yes.
We're at our top 3.
This one, you guys will be trying to guess what our top 3 Saw movies would be. And I reckon you could probably guess number 3 with a little hint.
Yeah.
The hint is it's number 3.
It's number 3. That's a pretty good hint because the film is Saw 3.
Saw 3.
Saw 3 is amazing.
Saw 3 is a great movie.
I love it so much.
Yeah.
And let's start by saying, all you Jeff haters, shut up, because Jeff is a great character.
Give us another shut up. Go on.
Shut up. Jeff is a great character. I think that he's perfectly written.
Yeah.
I think that if you were in Jeff's shoes, you would also be very slow at saving these individuals, if saving them at all. Because let's be honest, what person in that entire trap plot deserves saving?
Yes, they were there. They were there for a reason.
Exactly.
And he had a bone to pick with a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
And also Jeff, the actor who played Jeff, the character Jeff.
Incredible.
Fantastic.
It's hard to fault him. You felt genuine sadness. I remember when I first saw the Saw film, Saw 3, that scene where he has to burn his son's belongings. I don't even like children, and I cried in that scene. It is so hard to watch. He's so good during it. I would have let that lawyer drown. Sorry.
Yeah, it was kind of weird that he actually saved that guy.
Yeah.
Realistically, though, Jeff is one of the highlights of this movie, I want to
Absolutely.
say. Obviously, we get a lot of...
Amanda's very
We
good.
get a lot of Amanda and Kramer here as well, which is like a big deal because there's only so many films where we do get either of them, let alone both of them, which is a pretty big deal. Like to get that much Kramer and Amanda, not just Kramer, but the two of them. And it's a really cool sort of subplot. Him getting treatment for his cancer and the surgery and everything is pretty hardcore stuff.
It is. It's very full on that the scene where
he gets his brain
doing surgery on his brain. It is extremely full on.
Yeah.
And I love every moment of it. I do. I think Lynn is a very strong character too.
She's great too, yeah.
I don't think she's quite as good as Jeff, but she is still really good to watch.
She's amazing. Jeff puts a high bar up there. But,
he does.
But
he sets the bar pretty
great.
high.
And I like that, not that you get much screen time between them, but the two of them as like a couple kind of work really well.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Yeah.
It feels believable as well.
Yeah, not only that, but like the fake out at the start where you think that guy that she's seeing is her husband, but it turns out it's not. It's Jeff all along. Is so good. Like that reveal, the reveal of Amanda being tested the whole time, amazing.
Yep.
The fact that Amanda reads this letter and we don't find out what's in the letter till movies later, like Saw 6. I think that it's a really, really good film. It works so well. And Amanda is amazing in it.
Yeah,
She's
she's
just
so good.
crazy, super unhinged.
She's amazing. She's crazy.
She's crazy, but in a good way. She's
Yes.
very unhinged in this film.
Yeah.
Amanda starts to get to a point in this film that Hoffman sort of does in Saw 6 and Saw 7, where she's just gone a bit nuts. She doesn't take it as well as John does.
Yeah, and there's so many things I could say about this movie because it gets so much right. But I think the biggest thing for me is just how good Jeff is because he is such a major part of the movie.
Yeah.
And for anyone who wants to complain about Jeff,
which is the whole world, apparently.
yeah, look, I think that someone started this slow MFer Jeff situation.
Cece's World.
And I think let's just get off that bandwagon because Jeff is great. He's a great actor, and if he wasn't a slow Jeff. If people don't get that meme, basically people complain that he was very slow throughout the movie. I won't get too far into it.
Yeah.
But he has to be a certain speed. I mean, we're trying to watch a suspenseful movie here where the guy's having trouble. We don't want to watch some hero run through these streets. He's an average guy,
No, if anything, we want to see them save no one.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. And all the way down to the very end scene in which his wife departs the world, and he's left with.
You can say that.
And he's left with a dead body that he's still in love with.
Have you ever seen the deleted scene?
Yeah, if you haven't seen the deleted scene of him,
go watch it.
In love with the remains of his wife.
Poor guy.
In that room, it's an amazing deleted scene.
It's horrible to watch.
Yeah.
But you really do feel bad
Jeff,
for him. I feel like people would like Jeff more if this scene was in the
because
movie.
what actor is pulling off a scene where they're in love with this corpse, you know? Like, there's not much left of her. It's a headless corpse.
It is.
And he sells the fact that he's in love with this person even without a head. So, props to him. I'm sorry.
Look at your hair.
I'm going to give
I don't even like imagining it.
Yes, I'm going to give it to him there. Yeah, look, we're not going to talk about it forever because it's just, it's a great movie. You guys know it. We have 2 more movies to talk about.
2 more movies to go. And yeah, there's only 2 more movies it could be. Number 2, we have...
Well, what do you guys reckon we picked for number 2? It is?
sawx.
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 Obviously, you could go either way here. sawx, easily the best critically reviewed film out of the 10.
The only film in the whole list that is fresh.
Yeah, super high reviews here. Obviously, like performing very well at the box office, performing very well with the critics and the fans. You know, some people, you know, have some things to say about it. Overall, it's a very different movie.
It is.
To the rest of the Saw franchise.
It is. I don't think it's as different as Jigsaw and Spiral.
No.
But it is a very different film. If you saw it before watching any of the Saw films, you'd be like, how is this in the same universe?
Yeah.
But it is very different, but it's also amazing.
It's amazing.
It's incredible.
It's a beautiful modern reboot to the franchise that takes Saw very seriously, makes it a real piece of cinema. And I think it's Tobin Bell's like ultimate swan song as the character of John Kramer.
He is just so incredible in it. You feel so emotional for John. This is the first time that you really get like a deep dive into what he's been through and how everything has affected him as an individual. And just the emotional side of things is like, it's heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking. Every time he sheds a tear in this movie, you just think, wow, like incredible. And yeah, again, we don't have to delve on this film all day long, but it is really such a great, not just like a great film, but like such a great way to see Saw grow up almost. It's like, here are these actors and how they've really come over the years and how they've perfected the characters, I suppose. And also Kevin Grudett, who was involved since Saw 1 of editing the movies and directing a bunch of them as well. How much he has grown up and like made a film obviously he's very proud of, I think. It's just a really great movie that people that aren't necessarily into horror are enjoying.
Saw 10 is really a gift to the fans, and we ate that shit up.
And yeah, on that note, like how often do you get a movie that is pretty much all fan service?
Yeah, it is.
But also caters to like a brand new audience that have never seen the Saw movies. You managed to hit both targets here.
Yeah.
So without alienating one or the other, which basically, you know, risk doing, he's managed to please both audiences.
Absolutely.
So you can't ask for much more than that.
Did an amazing job. I'm so proud of Kevin, and I'm so happy and excited to see where the Saw franchise is headed after this movie.
That's right.
But it was not a hard choice to put this film at number 2.
Yes, we're very proud of our baby boy Kevin.
We are. We love you, Kevin.
Now.
Shout out to Kevin.
Yeah, he's the greatest Grudett of all. Well done, Kevin. And of course, that brings us to...
It doesn't come as a surprise that
best
the number one best film in the Saw franchise is the number 1 film, Saw 1.
Saw 2004.
Saw 2004.
And look, there are a number of reasons why we picked this.
It's where it all began.
It's where it all began. We wouldn't have any of the other sequels if it wasn't for this film.
If it wasn't for this film. So, look, there are some scenes in the first Saw that I would say maybe don't work in the overall outlook of every Saw film, specifically Jigsaw's character. But we can't fault it. It's where the franchise began. It gave us some incredible moments. It has one of the best plot twists in any Saw film ever, or in any film ever, I would go as far to say.
It's quite complex as well.
It's a very complex twist. It sort of relies on everything in the whole film to like back it up. I don't think that there was a moment wasted in the entire movie.
No, it had one of the best casts as well, like a very big cast,
Absolutely.
Especially for the budget and everything, but like the amount, there's a lot of actors in this and they're all great pretty much. They really managed to pull in some big names to help this one. It's big names. And
it really just gave birth to the franchise.
It really did. And this is a franchise that's now, they announced recently, $1 billion franchise. It has crossed $1 billion as a combined box office.
And this all started with a film that was made in 18 days.
By $1 million. For $1 million.
For $1 million.
Yeah,
And
so-
by 2 Australian filmmakers and writers, and I guess an actor as well, Lee Winnell. But they were nobodies. And they managed to make one of the best films in horror history.
Yeah, it was an absolute dream for them.
Yeah.
You know, it's a dream
We
scenario.
are proud to be Australian.
Yeah, that's right. You know, and I think America's taken over by now. But this film was made by Australians. Yeah, it is the one that started it all. And you know, whether or not everyone thinks Saw 10's better than this one, because there is a bit of a debate on that, I suppose. You can't deny the film that started everything.
No, you can't. And what an amazing film it is.
Yeah, it's There's a lot to be said.
There's
about
all good
the first
things.
Saw.
All good things. I can't think of a single thing in this movie that I could fault,
That's
other than
thing.
the drill scene.
It's if you like Saw at all, it's hard to really fault Saw 1. You know, because for Saw fans, like there might be people who don't like horror or whatever and just don't care about Saw at all. But if you like Saw at all, I think that Saw 1 is the one film that most people really can't talk badly about.
Exactly.
Because you might have your issues with pretty much any of the others. Might even just be expectations of what Saw 10 was going to be. But this film, it's very hard to say anything
It's
bad
really
about.
phenomenal. It's an incredible piece of art, really. You look at this film as a film that was put together in 18 bloody days, and you just think, how?
Yeah.
How did they do it? And it's just, I can't think of anything better.
Yeah, and I think that just it shows you what can be achieved when there's really that will to put it together as well.
The will to live.
And it deserves its spot at number 1,
Absolutely.
regardless, in the top 10. So there you have it, guys. The top 10
That was our top 10.
Saw movies.
I'm sure you guys were kicking and screaming at it, and that's fine. We'd love to hear what your top 10 is, because I'm sure it differs to ours.
But if it didn't, and you had it exactly the same ranking as us, we would also love to know.
I would love to know that, because I don't think there's a single person out there that would put Saw 5 at in the top 5. But I would, and you've met me now. So.
And I don't know how many people in general would probably have top 10s of Saw that match exactly. You know? Like how many people could write their top 10 down and then know one person that matched it exactly? Because everyone's going to have a
Everyone's
few different.
different when it comes to ranking the Saw films.
But I will say, from 2 Saw experts who have been talking about this way too much over the last month and a half, this is the definitive list. So I don't care what your list is. This is the correct list.
It'll probably change in like 3 days.
Yeah. So there you go.
We're going to need to start doing a top 10 Saw list like every month. Top 10 Saw list for the month of August. Top 10 Saw.
Yeah, we'll be back with the next one. But for now, I want you guys to write your top 10 list down below in the comments.
Chuck it down in the comments.
So we can
and
review
tell us
your top
which
10.
film you were most unhappy with in our list.
That's right. And we've really sort of opened ourselves up to criticism here by listing our top 10. So it's your turn to do the same so we can review yours. We want to know, do you reckon we're incorrect? Well, you tell us.
And we'll tell you why you're wrong.
Yes. We'd love to know. Otherwise, guys,